السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله.
أما بعد، فقد قال علي بن الرضا عليه الصلاة والسلام: من زارني على بعد داري أتيته يوم القيامة في 3 موات حتى أخلصه من أهوالها، إذا تطايرت الكتب يمينا وشمالا عند الصراط وعند الميزان. صلوات بيجي محمد محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. As announced, we are commemorating the Shahadat of Gharib Tus, our 8th Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa alayhi salatu wassalam. Once again, keeping in mind it's a working night and working day tomorrow, I will be as concise as possible. And also, in order to speak about the personality of 8th Imam, or to be able to derive even one lesson from the life of our 8th Imam, it will not be justice to speak about him for 35 minutes, 40 minutes, but nonetheless we'll do tabarruk and take tabarruk from whatever favors and whatever it is that we get from this ma'soom, and inshallah we'll give some rabt to the masaib and the musibat of this Imam, and connected with the events that were taking place around this time in Karbala. To speak in regards to this majlis, or to talk about Imam Rada, usually the way what I do is I dedicate the whole majlis pertaining and talking about Imam that is under discussion, instead of talking about other issues and then obviously bringing the masaib. My focus usually is to speak and give the haqq to the Imam that we are discussing. It might not be possible, as I said, because of the brevity of time, but nonetheless, the discussion will be in regards to the ziyarah of 8th Imam. As if I was going through my notes from the previous years that I have had the privilege of speaking to you on the wiladat of 8th Imam, and as well as the shahadat of 8th Imam. And we've seen that the discussions we've had in the past years, although I don't know how many of you would recall, were either pertaining to the political siyasat of the Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, or the political awareness and the vision of Imam that we talked about last year. How Imam was politically involved in the era that he lived in. We talked about that last year. We've spoken about the name Rada, the meaning of the name Rada, and the implication and implementation of the rida of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala into our lives. And we have discussed that as well. So I was thinking as to what should we discuss, which is not repetitive from previous years, the ziyarat of Imam Rida. And for that particular reason, I quoted in front of you one quotation from our 8th Imam himself. He says, while he's alive, in regards to after his death, he said, "Man zarani ala bu'd dari," that whoever visits me to the place where I will be resting, or my resting place, ataytuhu yawm al-qiyamah thalatha mawatin hatta ukhallisuha min ahwaliha. That whoever comes and visits me in this place that I'm buried, in this place where I will be buried, I will visit and ensure that I will come and pay a visit to this person on 3 occasions on the Day of Judgment. 3 places in which this person, not necessarily Day of Judgment, this person will be in need, and I will bring him out of that necessity. So you will be struggling, you will be hurting, you will be in a form of where you'll be seeking help. Imam said, I will come and bring you out of that difficult time. 3 places that Imam mentions. He said, إِذَا تَطَايِرَةُ الْكُتُبِ يَمِينًا وَشِمَالًا. When the books and the nama amal will be handed out, either to your right hand and to your left hand. He said, indeed, it will be a very difficult situation for those who receive their nama amal in their left hand. That will be an indication that the mizan and the scale of their bad deeds is higher and heavier than their good deeds. That's why their amal and the book of their amal is being handed over onto their left hand. He said, Imam says, I will come and pay a visit to you at that particular time when you are in need of it. Second, Imam says, in the sirat, when you will be crossing the sirat, which is very difficult to pass, Imam said, I will come and I will visit you at that point so that you do not have any lapses, you do not fall into the ditch. I will make sure that you cross through the sirat without any pain. And third, Imam says, wa indal mizan. Definitely when the mizan, the day of judgment, the qayamat will take place, when the judge will be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you will be ordered whatever it is that you have received, I will come and pay a visit to you. There are different narrations in this regard. Another narration which also mentions that Imam says, the person who comes and visits me in Tuz, in my ghurbat, in the place that I will be buried, I will make sure that I visit this person on 3 occasions when he's in need of me the most. One, he says, ihtazar, in the ihtazar, when a person, his soul is being taken away from his body. When the soul is being drawn from this body, indeed it is a very, very painful situation. None of us have gone through it to be able to comprehend as to what that situation is. Imam says, indeed it is very difficult. I will come and visit you so that that pain becomes an ease for you. Second, Imam says, I will come and pay a visit to you in the qabr, when you will be dropped into your resting place and your relatives and family members, everybody will leave you over there and you will be by yourself in this wahshat. That's why we perform what? Salatul wahshat on the first night, because of the wahshat and the terrifying, that terrifying occasion it is for a person who's recently been buried. Imam said, I'll come and visit you so that you no longer feel wahshat anymore. And third, Imam said, in the qiyamah, when everybody will be running after their own affairs, a father will not care for his own son, a mother will not care for her daughter or anyone else. Everybody will be on their own. Imam says, I will come and visit you so that you do not feel stranded and by yourself. So we see that there is a worth and there's a value and there's a reason and a purpose behind the ziyarat of Imam, Saire Imam, all of the Imams, especially in particular our 8th Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa alayhi salatu wassalam. But before we get into the discussion of the ziyarah and as to what implications does it have, we need to look at it from the aspect that it is also an ibadat. When we come to this majlis-e-aza, we consider this to be ibadat as well. Ibadat, that we are doing the dhikr of Allah, we're doing the dhikr of Masumeen, and that is itself is an ibadat, is a worship. And therefore, when it is a worship, it becomes something which is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And similar is the case when we go for the ziyarat of Masumeen. Unfortunately, some people believe that the ziyarah is a bid'at and so on and so forth. No, this is ziyarah is not in particular to go ahead and worship the person who's buried over there. Rather, it is to draw us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we will be mentioning some of the benefits of the ziyarah, we will mention that over there. Any ibadah that you do, the concept behind each and every single ibadah is what? Is to seek nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You perform salat, 2 rakat namaz fajr, you said qurbatan ilallah. Namaz is gone. The performance of salat after fajr time is over. You prayed, it's gone. That fajr is not clinging on to you. That qurbat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is still with you. The month of Ramadan, you fasted 30 days, month is gone. It's now Shawwal, Ziqat, Zilhijj, Muharram, Safar now. That month passed 5 months ago. Ramadan is not with you. But that qurbat that you attain by fasting is still with you. You go and perform this Hajj once in a lifetime. You spend all this money to go ahead and perform this Hajj. You go there for a couple of weeks, you come back. That Hajj is done. That ibadat is taken care of. That is no longer with you. What is with you? The qurbat that you are trying to attain from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you. And if that qurbat is not there, then obviously these acts of worship would not carry any value, none whatsoever. When you remove this wealth from you in the form of zakat and khums, What is it that you're doing? You're doing this to seek the nearness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The wealth that you have given away, which has been utilized by those who are in need, that wealth is no longer with you. What is with you? The qurbat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you. Similar is the case when you go ahead and perform the ziyarat of ma'sumin. When you go for the ziyarah of ma'sum, what is it that you're trying to achieve? You're trying to achieve the nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you are in the vicinity, in the proximity of Imam Ma'asum or Awliya Allah, this place is the last place where you will be thinking of any mischief or any wrongdoing. When you're able to refrain from any mischief or any wrongdoing, obviously you will be inclined towards getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, purifying yourself, and inshallah in the benefits we will mention some of these things. So this is the scope of ziyarat, if we can understand. If you look at it from the perspective of ibadat, from the perspective of a worship, then obviously it has a whole different meaning to it altogether. That's the way you perform Salatul Fajr. That's the way you perform the fast in the month of Ramadan. Just the way you go for Hajj. Just the way you do zakat and khums. Similar is the ziyarah, because it is also for the sake of seeking nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Yeah. So it's the qurb of Allah that we are trying to attain from this. And that's why Imam is guaranteeing something when he says that whoever comes and visits me after my death, he says, I will make sure that I personally visit this person. I'll make sure that it is incumbent upon me to go ahead and pay a visit to this person. But yes, how do you visit Imam? Arifan bihaqqihi. Knowing that Imams, having the ma'rifat of Imam, with this ma'rifat, if you go ahead and visit Imam, then it's obviously a different story. Not so much that just for the sake of visiting every year, because I have these vacation time available, I have this much money, so I'll go ahead and visit and pay a visit every year. Not for that sense. Rather, arifan bihaqqi Imam. Person could be visiting every single year for the rest of their lives, would still not be able to attain that level, but we would visit once, would not even get close to the zari of Imam, still he was there. Arifan bihaqqihi, he will attain that status definitely. So we see that there are three discussions that we want to have, or three division of the discussion that we want to have in the brief time that I have. First, ahmiyat of ziyarat, the importance of ziyarat. Why is it important that we must perform this ziyarah? Second is the athar and the consequences of the ziyarah that come upon us, the implementations of it. And third, the adab of ziyarat. What should be a particular way of us to go ahead and perform this ziyarah? We perform ziyarah from far distance. That also has its meaning and value as well for those who are unable to get close to the vicinity and the proximity to these shrines where Masumin are buried. Even from far away, the ziyarah that we recite by standing up, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah, Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, Assalamu alayki ya Fatima al-Zahra, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. This is a ziyarah that we are performing from far distance. It has pretty much the same value as if you are present in the bargah of Imam alayhi salatu wassalam. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So what is the importance of ziyarat? If I can just have this muqaddamah in front of you, that how many times do we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His favors? The ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you forget about outside of salat, within the salat, there are at least 10 times a day we're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bestow upon us His ni'mat. We say, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. We're asking for this guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh Allah, bestow upon us this guidance. Guidance of what? What type of guidance? The guidance of those an'amta alayhim, upon whom you have bestowed your favors. Not the ones who went astray. Not the ones upon whom your wrath was brought down. This is the Surah Fatiha that we all recite. I just recited the translation of it. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Those upon whom neither your anger has come upon, nor those who have gone astray. Give us the guidance of those people. You look into Quran, bars of the verses of Quran, they do the tafsir of other verses of Quran. You look at another place in Surah Nisa, verse number 69, it explains that which group is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning upon whom neither Allah's adab has come upon, or this is the group upon which they have not gone astray, and Allah has bestowed His favor and ni'mat onto this group of individuals. You look at this ayah, it says there are 4 individuals. Among them are Nabiyyin, was-Siddiqeen, was-Shuhada, was-Salihin. These are the 4 people upon whom Allah has bestowed His ni'mat. Nabiyyin would be, for example, all of the Anbiya that we have. Siddiqeen, for example, would be the Aimma Athhar that we have. Shuhada, usually in Quran, means the one who witnesses. But here, Shuhada means those who are martyrs in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And lastly, Salihin would be those who are close to the Imam, such as Hazrat Abbas, or the family of Imam, or Banu Hashim, for example. They would be considered as Salihin, because they're not part of Nabiyyin, they're not part of Shuhada, or if they are part of Shuhada, they're also part of Salihin. We see that these are the groups of people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned upon whom He has bestowed His favors. You would raise a question. There are many folks in the world, evildoers, Allah has bestowed His favors upon them as well. So for example, Hitler, he received the favors of Allah. Saddam Hussein, he received the favors of Allah. Even the worst individuals living today, they are receiving the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a difference between the two. When we mention the ni'mat over here, ni'mat is not talking about materialistic ni'mat. Because materialistic ni'mat will receive, everyone will receive the materialistic ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, these individuals, Nabiyyin, was-Siddiqeen, was-Shuhada, was-Salihin, are the recipient of the ni'mat ma'anavi and the spiritual name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so these are the people whose path we are trying to attain, so that we can also get onto the path of these individuals. Here we see that don't think that this ziyarat that we are performing. So we're going for the ziyarat of Nabiyyin. We're going for the ziyarat of Siddiqeen. We're going for the ziyarat of Shuhada. We're going for the ziyarat of Salihin. These are the people who we're going for the ziyarat. We're not going for the ziyarat of any other individual aside from this 4 group of people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Nisa. So there's no concept of the person who is dead or alive. There's no dead or alive or deceased or alive when it comes to the ziyarat. You know what Imam Rada alayhi salatu wasalam says? He said, Lana a'yunun. Lana a'yunun la tushabbihu a'yunun nas. We have a vision where the people that does not resemble the vision of the people. There's a vision that we possess, that you as people do not possess that vision. What is it that Imam ﷺ is saying? I'll mention a couple of stories so that we understand what vision is. There's a person by the name Abu Basir. I'm sure you've heard of his name on many occasions, riwayat, quoted from 5th and 6th Imam usually. That was the era that he lived in, even 4th Imam. Abu Basir once entered into masjid. Our 5th Imam was there. He greets Imam. And once he greeted Imam, Imam said to him, ask those who are present in the masjid, do you see Muhammad al-Baqir? So right away he asked the people in the masjid, do you see Abu Ja'far, father of 6th Imam? People were like, no, we don't. While Imam was standing next to him. Imam was standing next to him. He said, ask people if they see me. People said, no, we don't see Abu Ja'far. He's not here. He was surprised. There came a blind person who was apparently blind. Imam said, ask him. He goes up to him and says, do you see? Although he was shy of asking because that person was blind. He said, do you see Abu Ja'far? He said, yes. How can I not see him? The nur is illuminating this whole masjid because of his wujud. How is it that possible that I can't see him? So there's a difference of visions that people possess. Sometimes our own vision misleads us. Imam of our time is present in the same way. The 12th Imam is amongst us, yet you and I do not possess that vision to be able to see him. That's one thing. Abu Basir said, and this vision is basically the later story, that Abu Basir said that Imam started speaking to a person who had come from Africa. And when Imam was speaking to him, I overheard their conversation. Imam asked him, "You just came from Africa, how is our friend?" And Imam asked, "Rashid, our friend Rashid, how is he doing?" That man from Africa said, "He's very nice, he's very good. But how do you know about him? You've never been to Africa." Imam said, "Yeah, but we know wherever our followers are and wherever our muhibbeen are, and we keep an eye on them." He said, "When I left, he was doing well." Imam said, "May Allah have mercy upon him, rahimahullah." He said, "What happened?" He said, "He died." Imam said, "He died 2 days after you left Africa." How does Imam know? Abu Basir is again puzzled. He said, "Oh Imam, you've never visited Africa, you've never gone there." He said, "Yes, this is the vision that we possess. A'yunun lana, we have a vision that is not compared with the vision of the people. No, but you don't know. We didn't go there, yet we are able to keep an eye on those who are our followers." Similar is the case of Imam of our time, and I'll prove it through an ayat of Quran. This is not something which is a baseless, argument. Another example of it is in the time of our Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet was in Masjid-e-Ali, and he said to the people who were gathered over there to let's perform Salatul Mayyat Ghaib. In Salatul Mayyat is either for Hadir or for Ghaib. What does it mean for Ghaib? For it means that person who is of high status and caliber, who is not here, who died somewhere else, you perform Namaz Ghaib for him. So, for example, someone died in a remote place, we do not have access to that person's body, we go ahead and perform Salatul Mayyit for him over here, so we have done this ritual for him. Prophet said, "Let's gather, we're going to go ahead and perform Salatul Mayyit." People said, "Prophet, who died?" He said, "A person in Habsha died yesterday and we have to perform Salatul Mayyit." Today, you would know, news travels in an instant from globe, from there to here, from east to west, because of the technology that we have. But this is living in the time 1400 years ago. Prophet said, "A person died yesterday, we're doing the Salatul Janazah for him right now." He said, "Who died?" He said, "A person by the name Najashi just passed away." Najashi died on Islam, and that is the reason Prophet was performing Salatul Mayyit. Lana a'yunun. We have this vision that it cannot be compared to the vision of the people. So Imam Rada is saying the same thing. When you go for the ziyarat of Imam, don't think that Imam does not see. Don't think that Imam does not hear. No, a lot of time when you say Assalamu alayka ya Ali ibn Musa, should be ready to hear alaykum assalam back from Imam, and do not be surprised if you hear that reply back from Imam. The reason why this is proven through Quran as well, if you refer to Surah Tawbah, verse number 105, you would read, وَقُلِ اعْمَلُوا, go ahead and perform all the actions you want to, فَسَيَرَ اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ, indeed Allah will see in future your amal, وَرَسُولُهُ, and His Prophet will see your amal, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ, and mu'mineen will see your amal. Here the question arises, you and I consider each other to be mu'mineen. We understand in this ayah Allah sees. We understand in this ayah Rasul sees. But who are the mu'mineen over here? Is it you and I? Do you and I know what we have been doing? Do you know what I have been doing in the last couple of weeks? You just have an idea, but you cannot say exactly what I have been doing. So therefore, my amal were not being given to you, or you are unaware of my amal. Therefore, mu'mineen over here in this ayat has to be someone above us or below Prophet, and that is none other than Imam Masumi alayhimus salatu wassalam. Salawat bi Muhammad. And similarly, we see that there came two individuals to see Imam Rada in Khurasan. And when they came to see Imam, they asked for the mas'ala of salat. This mas'ala of salat, whether it's qasr or whether is it, tamam, it's not something which is relevant in our time. It has always been there. So they asked Imam, what should we do? How should we pray? Should we pray full? Should we pray qasr? Same masala. If you're staying there for 10 days, obviously you'll pray full. If you're not, obviously Imam, without going into those details, knows the background of these individuals, knows what they have come here for, knows how long they will be staying. And that is the ilm ghaib that Imam possesses. Imam points towards one person and says, you will pray qasr because you had done qasd and intention to come and see me. But as far as you are concerned, you will pray full because your intention was for a sinful purpose. Your travel is for a sinful purpose. And whenever you travel for a sinful reason and sinful purpose, your salat is full and you do not pray qasr. Right away that person said, oh Imam, what is it that I have done? Imam said, this person came to see me. So that is ayn ibadat. That is that he's come to do my ziyarat, while as you have come to do the ziyarat of the tyrant ruler of the time, Mamun al-Rashid, Harun al-Rashid's son. Therefore, your salat will be full because your travel is for sinful purpose. Right away, even at that time, while Imam is explaining the rules of this salat, whether it's tamam or qasr, Imam is mentioning. So we see the concept of visitation and ziyarat existed all along. Ashab of Rasulullah, they used to perform the ziyarat. Bilal sees in his dream, Rasulullah comes to his dream and says, oh Bilal, has been a long time that you have visited us. Why don't you come and visit? Bilal right away goes for the visitation of Rasulullah. He weeps and he cries while he's performing the ziyarat of Rasulullah. Prophet used to visit his mother who died on the way to Makkah in Abwa. He always used to visit the grave of his mother. We see that Imam Hussein ﷺ, it was his duty after the Shahadat of Imam Hassan, whose majlis we had recited last night, and the Shahadat we had talked about, to visit his brother. Every Thursday night, Imam made sure that he went for the ziyarat of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba ﷺ. We see that it's not just in the Shia madhab that this ziyarat existed. Even the Imams of Ahl Sunnah, it is mentioned in regards to Abu Hanifa that he used to visit the Imam. The ziyarat goes for the ziyarat of Imam's qabr, Imam's grave. In fact, to the extent that he used to broom and clean the qabr of Imam ﷺ, and he used to give out the gifts to the people who would come for the ziyarat of Imam. In regards to Imam Shafi'i, it is mentioned that he used to visit the grave of our seventh Imam, used to call it to be Tiryaqul Mujarrab, that he said whenever I would run into a mas'ala, I would not able to find a solution to it, I would go and do tawassul to the qabr of Musa ibn Ja'far, and I will be able to find a solution to the problems that I was facing. So it's a concept which existed all along in the history, whether it would be from the Shia perspective or from the Sunni perspective. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So that's first as far as the ahmiyat of ziyarat is concerned, how important it is to perform the ziyarah. Second, I'll go through it very quickly as I've taken more than time that I told you, is the athar and the consequences of ziyarat. What are some of the athar that develop on you? And obviously I won't be able to discuss all of the athar, maybe just one or two and we'll move on, that come upon you. One of the most fundamental things that come into you when you go for the ziyarat of Ma'soom is that taqwiyat of tawheed in you. What does that mean? That means your belief in the oneness and the wahdaniyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is intensified. This taqwiyat comes into the aqaid of yours. This taqwiyat comes into the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the ziyarat of Imam Rada, we recite, Allahumma ilayka samattu min ardi. That, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have left my ardh to come to do the ziyarat for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that I can do what? Allahumma tahhirni. Oh Allah, purify me because I'm visiting Ali ibn Musa Rida. We see that how this ziyarat has these consequences, these asar, which are attached with it. At the end of the ziyarat of Imam Rada, we recite that there is a concept of tazkiyah, the purification of the soul that we do. At the end of the ziyarat of Imam Rada, we recite these words. What is it? Allahumma inni astaghfiruka istighfar haya wa astaghfiruka istighfar al-raja. I'm seeking haya from the visitation of Imam Rada. I'm seeking umeed and keeping this umeed alive inside me by doing the ziyarat of Imam Rada alayhi salatu wassalam. We see that these are the things that we are asking a person who has performed sin or who's engulfed into sin. He should go ahead and do the ziyarat of Ali ibn Musa Rada. And he should recite this ziyarat, Allahumma tahhirni. Oh Allah, purify me because I'm visiting Musa ibn Ja'far. We see obviously the concept of sin is something which is hard to sometimes explain, yet it is something which is, has all of us encompassed or engulfed into in performance on, na'udhu billah. But nonetheless, we see when you're trying to explain to someone, it's not just the ziyarat will remove the sin from you completely. So don't get me wrong, that when you are a sinful person, you go for the ziyarat, everything washes away. No, alongside with the ziyarat, you will have to do a few things. For example, someone has the habit of looking at na-mahram. How do you control this concept? How do you put a stop to this? Ulama akhlaq have mentioned many things. One of the things, obviously receiving from ma'sumin, one of the things that they have mentioned is that put a block onto this eye. Because eye, this another baridul qalb. This eye is the straightforward, postman for your heart. Anything that goes through this eye right away reaches your heart. And you prevent anything from reaching this heart, because the two quwwat, powers that exist in insan, is quwwa shahwaniyya, the desires that insan has, or quwwa ghadabiyya, the anger that insan has. These are the two things that exist in us with the most intensification. Either this shahwat or this ghadab that we have. These two things. You find people are troubled with it, either with the desires or with their ghadab. They don't have any control over it. And therefore he says what? He said, in order to control this desire of yours, you got to make sure that you're able to protect this eye. When you can protect this eye, then you will have protected yourself from falling into this sin. Hazrat Yahya ﷺ was asked the same thing, and he recommended protecting this eye. He said what? And this is not Hazrat Yahya, but ulama akhlaq have mentioned. He said what? He said, go ahead and make this covenant to you, that you will prevent this eye from wandering around for one day. And then, if you're unable to do this, punish yourself. Put a penalty every time it did wander around within yourself. So I'll penalize myself with $5 if I wandered around like this. Do that for 2 days. Increase that for 1 week until you reach 40 days consequently, one after another, having protected this eye. He said once you reach 40th day, there's a reason that 40 is mentioned. 40 is a very important number. If you are able to do this 40 days, then you will no longer need to penalize yourself. Then you will no longer, because you will have this malaka, you will have this complete control, because you've been able to refrain for it 40 nights. And therefore, this is how ulama akhlaq have mentioned, not just the eye, even the tongue, even the ears, all of these are directly connected with this heart of yours, which lead you towards committing the sin. So when you do this, and at the same time, when you go ahead and perform the ziyarat and sincerely ask, Allahumma tahhirni, oh Allah, purify me, definitely you will see this change has comes about in you. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And we see that ziyarat is important from the aspect that we ask awliya Allah to do istighfar for us. And this is not something which is unusual. Quran talks about it. In fact, in regards to Rasulullah, it says that, oh Prophet, if people come to you asking for istighfar, then we will definitely make you the one who is able to do the shafaat for them and who's able to ask for the istighfar. And you will find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wajadu tawwab, and that you will find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be tawwab at that time. We read the story of Hazrat Yaqub and his children. Hazrat Yaqub's children are at the highest level of Tawheed, believe in oneness of God. Yet what they do, they come, Ya Abana, istaghfir lana dhunubana. Oh our Father, ask for the forgiveness of our sins. Why are they coming through their father? Why aren't they asking directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This means that this concept of ziyarat continues even in the time of Hazrat Yaqub. His children are asking. Fourthly, it increases our love to awliya Allah. When it increases our love towards awliya Allah, it increases our love towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Last night I was mentioning, Allah said to Hazrat Musa, oh Musa, make people attractive towards me. How do you make people attracted towards? By mentioning my favors unto them. Tell them what are the favors that I have given to them. They will be attracted towards me. When we go for this visitation and this ziyarah, we see that we are drawn closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are many other effects that come about. For example, sins are forgiven, thawab of multiple hajj, thawab of multiple umrah, and paradise and shafaat and so on and so forth. All of these are among the consequences and the effects of ziyarat. Lastly, third, which is the adab of ziyarat. There could be many things mentioned as far as the adab of ziyarat is concerned. For example, ghusl, this and that. We're not going to go into details of those things. One thing which encompasses everything. One thing, if you're able to sense that, that includes all of the adab of ziyarat. That when you go for the ziyarat of Imam Ma'asum, you feel the ihsas, the zuhur of Imam at that time. That Imam is present where you're going for the ziyarat. For example, we're sitting over here, there's a large crowd over here, and you're told that amongst us is Marja-e-Taqleed. Right away, you will feel the presence of that Marja-e-Taqleed. You will start turning around, looking around where to find, to see if your eyes can catch him somewhere. Because you don't know if you'll be able to see him amongst this crowd. Right away, there's this ihsas al-zuhur, that you're able to feel the presence of this Marja-e-Taqleed. He said, when you go for the ziyarat, don't think that this Imam is dead, alive, whatever the case is. Have this ihsas al-zuhur that Imam is there. Imam is present. With this concept, when you perform the ziyarat, you will see a difference as far as your ziyarat is concerned. Why? We see the ayat in regards to this. There's an ayat of Quran which says, "La tarfa'u asfatakum fawqa sawtin nabi." Do not raise your voices above the voice of Rasulullah, whether he's alive or he's dead. The incident that we talked about last night, that when Imam Hassan's body was being carried out towards Jannatul, first initially towards the grave of Rasulullah, and you saw the arrows that came towards the body and the kafan of Imam alayhi salatu wassalam. This is where we see when these arrows were shot towards it. Right away, Banu Hashim, they did not remain silent. They drew their swords. They wanted to go ahead and take the revenge for it. Abil Fazl Abbas is also there. Do not discount him. He is there as well. In fact, there was a slogan which was raised at that time, Ya Muhammadah, because they were burying Imam Hassan and Mujtaba next to Rasulullah. Imam Hussein calmed everybody down. He said, this is not the place. La tarfa'u aswatakum fawqa sawtin nabi. Do not raise your voices above the voice of Rasulullah. That Rasul who died 50 years ago, who's buried over here, no, but his wujud is same as if he was alive. Do not raise your voices over the voice of Rasulullah. And you say, well, you know, this is in time of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. Similar thing continued even when Imam Malik and Mansur Dawaniqi. There's this event that takes place. In the time of our sixth Imam, Mansur comes into Masjid-e Nabi. You know, he's Amirul Mu'mineen. Imam Malik is Imam of the time. He comes in and he's making this dua out loud. If you have visited Masjid Nabi, you know Qibla is in front of you, and on your left hand side is the grave of Rasulullah. He's making this dua out loud. Right away, Imam Malik, you know, stops him. He said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, La tarfa'u aswatakum fawqa sawtin nabi. Have you not read this ayah? Do not raise your voice over Rasulullah. He said, but he's dead. The same concept that Wahhabis say today. He's dead. He said, no, his hurmat when he was alive is same when he's dead. So the hurmat and the respect of Rasulullah is same when he's alive and when he's dead. Awliya Allah, Nabiyyin, Siddiqeen, Shuhada, was Salihin. Their hurmat when they're alive is same when they're dead. Do not raise your voice over the voice. He said, so what should I do? Should I make dua facing Qibla or should I make dua facing Rasulullah? He said, Lima tusarrif wajhahu an. Why do you turn your face away from him when your forefathers were facing Rasulullah and they were making their dua? When even Adam had to ask for dua, he was looking towards Rasulullah and he was making this dua. Why do you turn your face away? Go ahead and tell. This is Qadi Ayyad in his book Shifa, mentioning an incident between Imam Malik and Mansur Dawaniqi, how they used to perform this. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. One of the adab of dua is Izn dukhul, and when you are doing the wida. Keep that in mind when you go for the ziyarat, that we always stand at the door of the Imam and we say, Allahumma inni waqaftu ala babin min abwab buyutin Nabi. That, oh Allah, I'm standing in front of the door of Nabi. I need permission to enter. وَقَدْ مَنَعَتِ النَّاسِ. Indeed, you have made forbidden upon people أَنْ يَدْخُلُوا بِدُونِ إِذْنِ, without the permission. فَأَذِنْ لِي, give me the permission to enter. And make sure when you leave, that you leave by doing the wida to Imam. These are some of the adab, if we can remember. But we see that Imam ﷺ, his ziyarat holds multiple favors and benefits. And that is the reason when Shah Abdul Azim Hassani, he asked our 9th and 10th Imams that whose ziyarat should I go for? Whose ziyarat is afdal rather? Because obviously at that time it was difficult to go for the ziyarat of those who are further away. He's in Shahri where he himself passes away. He's asking whose ziyarat is afdal. There are certain riwayat which mention from our 9th and 10th Imam, who say that the ziyarat of Imam Radha is afdal than the ziyarat of Sayyid al-Shuhada. You will say, how is that possible? Ziyarat of Sayyid al-Shuhada and ziyarat of Imam Radha? Yes, Imam Radha is up there, but nonetheless, Sayyid al-Shuhada has his own status. Nobody is compared with Sayyid al-Shuhada when it comes to his ziyarat. So much emphasis laid upon the ziyarat of Sayyid al-Shuhada. The reason that our 9th and 10th Imams mentioned, just pay attention to that. They said, our Jad Imam Hussain, everybody believes in him. The 6 Imamis Ismaili believe in him. The Zaidi Firqa believes in him. The Waqifiyya believe in him. All of these different firaq from the Shia, they believe in him and they go for his ziyarah. But 8th Imam, Waqifiyya don't believe in him. Ismaili don't believe in him. Zaidiyya don't believe in him. Only Shia believe in him. And therefore he's deprived of this ziyarah. So at this particular time, there's more thawab and there's more reward for visiting 8th Imam than there is for Sayyid al-Shuhada. And Imam ﷺ gave a reason. We see definitely Imam ﷺ lived a lengthy life, long life, 55 years, which is pretty much the life span of any of our Masumeen. But the struggles that Imam went through. Imam's last 3 years of his life, which he spends in Marv, Imam ﷺ is brought. You would say when a person is chosen to be the crown prince, he would be excited. That is on the contrary. Imam ﷺ is not excited to be crown prince of this tyrant ruler. To this day, today, even some of the brothers of Ahl Sunnah are trying to prove that Mamun Rashid had nothing to do with the martyrdom of Imam Radha. They say, how could Imam Rashid be involved in the killing of Imam Radha when he is the one who gave his daughter into marriage? When he's the one who gave his daughter into marriage of his son, Imam Radha's son as well, how could Imam Rashid would have done something like this? This is where they get themselves misled, not understanding as to what happened to Imam. Imam's popularity was being raised. He thought that by bringing him from Medina, he will be able to keep an eye, suppress him, keep him away from his followers. But it was on the contrary. Imam was increasing his fame and people were coming from all different directions and they were gathering around Imam ﷺ. And this is where he says, the only way for me to continue or my hukumat to continue is to remove Musa, Ali ibn Musa. And that is why he invites Imam one day, because Imam used to eat grapes and Imam liked eating grapes. He invites Imam ﷺ to his house. Imam has already told many of his servants, many of his companions, that this person, this Taghi, will not let me live too long and I will not survive for too many years, and let it be known that my end is coming. Imam had already informed that. In fact, Imam told his own servant as well that tonight when I'm going to Ma'mun, if I come back in certain condition, let it be known that I will not live any longer. But you don't worry about it. My son will come. He will take care of all of my last rituals. And Imam goes to Ma'mun. Ma'mun presents some of the graves to Imam. Ajrukum Allah. Imam picks up and Imam says that I do not have any inclination to these grapes. He said, you used to like the grapes. How come you're not eating anymore? Are you thinking that we're going to do something to you? Or there's some sort of tuhumat in it? Imam says, if you force, then I'll take a few. Imam takes a couple of grapes and he eats them. And then Ma'mun says, eat more. Imam said, the thing that you wanted to attain, what you wanted to achieve, will be achieved with those two grapes that I have eaten. I don't need to eat anymore. At that point, Imam sees the difference that is coming into his body. His face complexion is changing. His body is deteriorating. Imam gets up. Imam comes back towards his house. His servant sees him in the condition that his head was covered. Imam goes inside his hujra, goes inside his room. Imam lays there for a while until his servant comes in to see that Imam is no longer alive. Imam is no longer in this world, but he finds a little boy, maybe 8 years old, sitting next to Imam, and he says to him, how is it that you came inside the room? I was guarding the room and nobody was able to enter. He said, you don't know who I am. I'm the son of Musa, Ali ibn Musa. I'm here to perform all the last rituals. Go ahead and bring me this. Go ahead and bring me that. He says, there's no such thing like this in our house. I know I've been living in this house. Imam says, just do what I'm saying and you will find. He finds the kafan there. He finds the things that Imam was asking for. We see the Tariq has mentioned that one of the biggest and the greatest of the janaza was the janaza of Ali ibn Musa Rada. Yes, he died in this ghurba. He died in a place which was a strange place. He died at a place which was far away from his house, from Medina. But the one of the biggest ijtima and the congregation of the janaza was of Imam Ali ibn Musa Rada. I will hold my hand, O Imam. Indeed, you have faced difficult time, but at the last moment, at least your rituals were performed and the janaza was given to you. But Ya Aba Abdullah, on the day of Ashur, his body lays on the plains of Karbala for 3 days. His son Ali ibn Hussein as-Sajjad is there, yet he is unable to come forward and perform the last ritual. Ala lanatullahi al-qawmi al-zalimin. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلِبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ. बार अल्लाह हमारी से बात कबूल फरमा। हम गुनाहगार हैं, हमारे गुनाहों से दरगुजर फरमा। हमें अहले बैत अलैहिस्सलाम के नक्श कदम चलने की तौफीक अता फरमा। हमें उनकी ज़ियारत नसीब फरमा। बार अल्लाह हमारे इमाम के ज़ुहूर में ताजील फरमा। हमें उनके आवान अनुसार में शुमार कर। रब्बना तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंतस समीउल अलीम। मातम हुसैन।